Good. Again, thank you all for your patience as we go ahead and try yet again a second way of doing these video conferencing meetings. Tonight's meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and the folks are encouraged to make their comments prior to the meeting or at the beginning of the meeting. So at this time, I'd like to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, please. It's April 22nd, 2020. This is the Red Hook Town Board meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. Tonight's agenda, we have several items on our agenda this evening. And I will pull that up for you just momentarily. Okay, here's tonight's agenda. I will share with you, we hope. Okay, are you all able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
Yes.
So this is tonight's agenda. First item, obviously, an update on the coronavirus and efforts underway here locally. An update on the Stony Brook Culvert project. Highway operations, a couple of questions before us from our highway superintendent. And then there is a referral to us or an application by a resident for an open development area request. And then a referral from the communications committee, which we received yesterday, I believe, a new updated social media policy recommendation, as well as a letter explaining the rationale behind it. And number 6, electric vans. As you know, we went out to bid for 2 electric vans. We have some bid results and some initial review. So we'd like to report on the results of the bidding. We won't be going ahead and awarding the contract tonight, however, because we've got some work to do, not only in the review, but with the Department of Transportation as well. And then if we have time, board reports and department reports. Tonight we have to go into executive session on Article 7, which is tax certiorari matters with our attorney. So what we've done is we've arranged to do that by phone conference at 8:45. So if you're watching tonight's meeting, you'll notice that the screen will go blank sometime around that time as we go ahead and deliberate with our attorney on those matters. And then we'll come back if we want to take any action on those. And then there are committee reports and some correspondence. And so that is the agenda for tonight. Announcements. Well, obviously the announcements that we have relate to the pandemic that we're in the middle of right now. We want to let folks know certain events that are going to be not taking place this year. Our Rotary's Apple Blossom Day event, obviously set for just a couple of weeks from now, will not be taking place. There is some discussion about whether or not there will be a Memorial Day parade, or whether or not this year there'll be an alternative to that to celebrate our folks who participated in combat. And so those are the announcements that I have. Does anyone else have any announcements for tonight's meeting? Okay. Hearing none. And as I said before, we did not receive Any public comments? And so we'll dive right in on our first item on the agenda, which is an update on the coronavirus. And okay. All right, very good. Can you all see that? The date, Town of Red Hook coronavirus update. Many of you know much of the information that's going to be in these slides, but in case we have some folks at home watching who are not aware, we do want to keep them up to date on what's happening in our community. So the first thing, obviously, we know that we're kind of in the middle of what they think is might be a peak or a plateauing. Obviously, we're not qualified to be making any of those kind of judgment calls. But the health experts, Dutchess County and New York State, have us looking out for something like that. This graph here is from the New York State Department of Health, and all it does is plot the number of positive test cases in Dutchess County. And this is the length of time over the last 40 some odd days when the first case was. And, you know, we can't really make any statements based upon that, but that is sort of the data that is available. It's commonly accepted by the health experts that obviously there are more folks who have the coronavirus or who have had and have recovered from it than are recorded here, but these are the results of the testing that is taking place. And I have received a lot of, you know, phone calls from folks who have either been tested or want to be tested, and it does seem like testing is not happening for everybody who wants it still today, but those are the results. Dutchess County handles all public health emergencies. They provide also a lot of data that's relevant for our county residents and more specifically our town and villages, and they track each day. They're about a day behind the state because they do a verification process to make sure that folks who did contract in Dutchess County actually reside in Dutchess County and record it that way. Over on the left-hand side is a little bit of data here from New York State, and you can see as of, these are today's figures, by the way, in the state of New York, over 250,000 folks have tested positive. The town of Red Hook, according to Dutchess Department of Community and Behavioral Health, the township has 21, and the two villages in addition to that have 5 or less. And this is information that they, 32 deaths for the county. They provide daily on their website. As folks know, we're on what's called New York State's pause, the governor's pause, until May 15th. Those are the stay-at-home orders that we have. And pause stands for, that's the acronym. So the governor has issued a series of executive orders almost on a daily basis. I believe we're on executive order number 22. Those orders relate primarily to non-essential workers and businesses, what commonly is referred to as stay-at-home orders. There is an extensive list of businesses that are considered essential and non-essential. Obviously, they don't necessarily correlate to what you and I might think are essential or non-essential, but in the context of a pandemic, these are the edicts, if you will, of Albany and the governor's office. And these are the links. We'll have this on the website so folks can directly link onto this information. One issue is enforcement of these executive orders, and the governor's office assigned not the townships, but the counties actually to put together the enforcement task force associated with these executive orders. And so they put in place a procedure where either employees or residents could notify Albany of any potential violations of those executive orders. And so those complaints, if you will, can come from, anywhere neighbors to operations or businesses that may be conducting in conflict with those executive orders. We had an incident, I think, with the movie theater. I think the movie theater was one of those that the county sent word that they could not continue to conduct their food operations in the movie theater.
Robert?
Yeah.
We were copied on an email from the county to the Lyceum movie theater chain. That is a part of the public record and it's a part of the correspondence file for the meeting. I do think it would be good. I'd like to read it. It's not long to reinforce the importance of this and the clarity.
Okay.
Should I do that now or when you're done the slide?
Sure. No, go ahead.
Okay, so the email's from Ronald Hicks. Ron Hicks is the assistant county executive who has been assigned to be the head of the enforcement task force for the county. And he wrote on Saturday, April the 11th, good morning, sir. On April 1st, 2020, Governor Cuomo established the New York State Pause Enforcement Assistant Task Force requiring local governments to enforce executive orders of the state. As you know, we have gone back and forth with the state over the last week regarding your unique situation. Yesterday, we received updated guidance from the governor's office, and I regret to inform you that the Lyceum Theater and any of its coexisting ancillary operations, aka Lyceum 6 partners, doing business at 15 Old Farm Road, Red Hook, New York, must immediately cease and desist. This also applies to the Roosevelt Theater, aka Hyde Park Roosevelt Cinemas, LLC, doing business at 4060 Albany Post Road, Hyde Park, New York. While there is a quote-unquote cafe within the theater, the establishment is one building, under one corporation, and with one permit. The governor's office has made clear that no exceptions will be made for movie theater operations and that the Lyceum Theater is ineligible to request a designation. Furthermore, the state has advised us that any previous designation or determination that a firm is essential or exempt that is inconsistent with the latest executive order and revised guidance is no longer valid. Additionally, and with respect to any outdoor or parking lot activities, the governor's executive order 202.10 explicitly bans, quote, all non-essential gathering of individuals of any size or any reason, end quote. We appreciate your understanding of the position we are in and thank you in advance for your compliance. Please keep safe, Ron. Ronald Hicks, Assistant County Executive.
Okay. Thanks very much, Bill. And yes, even though we don't get those complaints, we do get CC'd from the task force about them. And I'm happy to say I don't think we've had but two, I think, during the course of these several weeks. So that's really terrific, and we appreciate everybody's cooperation. And again, it's, we're not suggesting that these executive orders, as far as essential and non-essential businesses, are exactly what we would do. But, we are required, one of the executive orders says that we must not do anything that's in conflict, the local governments, that's both the town and the county, in conflict with those executive orders. So a mechanism was established if people wanted to request a waiver, and we would encourage you to do so. There were a whole list of businesses, movie theaters was one of those, where you couldn't even request a waiver because they were so certain, apparently, that they didn't want to allow operations to continue there. So again, this comes from Albany. This is not something that we create. Okay, one of the executive orders relates to a face mask requirement. And so I'm going to move you all. Let's see, can I do that? How does that work? Okay. There's a requirement now to wear a mask or some type of face covering when you're in public or at work when social distancing is not possible, 6 feet. And so that's the key. If it's not possible to do the 6 feet, then it's required. If you are in certain essential retail establishments, you do need to wear these masks. And, you know, we're very appreciative of the many folks who are making masks. I can't tell you how many thousands of masks have been made here in your community for the folks in the grocery store, the folks in other businesses, folks at home. You know, there's been a huge effort, and so we really appreciate that. Of course, you know, what type of mask, how to wear it properly, all those things are important, and the CDC provides guidance in those areas. Okay, counties coordinate public health emergencies. Just as a reminder, this is not your typical disaster. If this were a disaster of a natural type, you know, a nor'easter, we would engage our emergency operations center, and we would coordinate with key people in our community, the fire company, our highway superintendent, the police, so on and so forth, the schools. But this is different. This is a public health emergency, and because we don't have the expertise, what we can do is to provide support, and that support comes in many forms, including and especially volunteers, boots on the ground to help. One of the ways that we can help our constituents right now who have been severely impacted financially is to ensure that they have food on the table. And so a huge amount of gratitude towards the many volunteers in the Red Hook Central School District. They are providing breakfast and lunch at the 3-5 side. 8:45, 11:30 every morning. Just drive right on up for folks who could, you know, benefit from that. It's Monday through Friday, and on Fridays they provide meals for the weekend as well. That's breakfast and lunch. Again, drive up, or if you cannot get there, they can in fact deliver it to you. Here's the contact information for the individuals there, the emails and the telephone number. Again, we'll have all this on the website tomorrow morning. Meals are also available through Dutchess County has an Office of Aging. They have a program called Home Delivered Meals, which they've now opened up to people outside of the normal qualifications because this is a public health emergency. And so what they do is they deliver now, because of the desire to have a limited number of contacts with the folks that they're providing to. They deliver 5 frozen meals to homebound residents. It says 5 days a week, but no, they deliver during the weekdays, and you'll get a delivery of 5 meals at a time. The information on who to contact, either by email or telephone, will also be included on our town website. Dinners. So what we've done here in the town is partner with many volunteers and local restaurants and the community action. As folks may know, the town has supported the Community Action Agency, which provides a whole multitude of services to many of our residents in the community, everything from signing up for home energy assistance programs to food pantry to now helping us to provide dinners to folks who need them. And there's been a lot of private money through Asienzo and individuals raised. So it's all working quite nicely. I should tell you that unfortunately, the need has grown rapidly over just the last weekend. It has more than doubled. And these are dinners being delivered through Red Hook Response, being made by our local restaurants. And if there is there are a huge amount of businesses that have been impacted, and importantly, our restaurants, because they are a key component of our food security. We have already seen some of them close. And this is the contact information for Red Hook Responds. And so there are food pantries also in our community. One is at the United Methodist Church here in the village. Community Action, again, as I mentioned. St. Christopher's right here on the other side of Route 9 has one. St. John's Reformed also has one. And Red Hook Harvest, if you're familiar with the Red Hook Harvest program, it's a wonderful program. Many of us have participated in. We do deliveries during the summertime primarily, but now also because of the pandemic, to families who would otherwise be on the free lunch program at the schools, but since school is not in session. So back to restaurants and farm stands, I can't emphasize enough that we really need to do everything we can to support these restaurants and farm stands. They're having a hard time getting some of the fiscal support that supposedly is out there. We've got lists we've had for well over a month of local restaurants that are doing curbside and delivery, and our farm stands. We have several of them, or farm stores that are open. And if you feel comfortable, we would certainly recommend that you continue to support them. Volunteer help hotlines. Red Hook has always done a tremendous job with volunteering, and we have lots of volunteers. I want to particularly point out our Red Hook Senior Services Committee, along with Hai Ping, who is heading up our Disaster Preparedness Committee, and many other volunteers are doing a wonderful job reaching out to our seniors. I tell you, we have over 70 people calling seniors and staying in contact with them to see what their needs are and how we might connect them to the appropriate place to get them what they require. So the Red Hook Response, which is a grassroots effort spearheaded by Dan Budd, but has just, I don't know, a couple hundred volunteers doing everything from helping folks with deliveries to, again, meals and delivering those as well, and connecting them to services that they need. Dutchess has an equivalent effort through the community foundations of the Hudson Valley called Dutchess Responds. This is their contact information. And they have provided some funding to Red Hook Responds and other local efforts. We kind of look at it like we're the boots on the ground. They have a lot of expertise, Dutchess County, and so it's working out quite well. Community action, I've mentioned before. I think it's important that folks know about this service. It's now open 5 days a week. It's typically just Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We are at the end of heating season, for example, but soon enough we'll need to be assisting folks with that paperwork and other paperwork, frankly, that they'll need help with. Fiscal support. The federal government has issued a whole bunch of plans. I won't really comment on them except to say that, folks have had difficulty either getting on the unemployment site. I understand they are up to now 100,000 workers on that, and they may have improved dramatically. Some of the fiscal support that was supposed to go to small businesses, I'm sure you read some of the big corporations that got that money. So whatever we can do to support our small businesses, and in particular, at least connect them to the programs that are available. I understand that Washington did pass another bill today to provide some more SBA support, as well as support for hospitals. And this is that. The Dutchess County has a really wonderful Dutchess business network. Bill, you had mentioned Ron Hicks. Ron is sort of spearheading this as well. They've got a lot of information on this Dutchess business network, and I recommend anybody with with any kind of questions to go to that. I think it's a real great resource. Okay, and last slide is your local government is always available to help, whatever we can do to assist you and connect you to the resources that you might need. Please let us know. A lot of folks have reached out to my office, and I appreciate it. And I think in many cases, hopefully we've been helpful, but do let us know. Okay. That is the end of that update. Did anybody want to speak on that topic? Any questions about what's going on locally, hospital beds, testing, anything? No? Okay. Very good. So we will go on to the next item of the agenda, which is the Stony Brook culvert. Oh, I think I forgot the supervisor's report. Okay. Let's get to the culvert first because we're sort of time sensitive. We can do the report later. Okay. You've all received the report. Just to remind the folks at home, there was an issue discovered after the culvert was replaced. There was some settling on one end of the culvert, and there was a very lengthy process to determine the best way to try to correct the settling of what I think amounts to about 5 inches on one end. If you recall the time frame when the culvert was installed, there was a lot of rain, and so there was some erosion, we believe, and it's led to some settling. And so I think after many, many months, we have a recommendation here from our engineer on a couple of different ways, potential ways to solve the issue. And I don't know if you've had a chance to read all of it yet. But my takeaway was that we probably benefit from getting a second opinion before we went ahead and chose one of those options. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
What's our time window on that?
Well, that's a good question. We don't have a lot of time, we think, because as we discovered the hard way, we definitely want to have whatever work is conducted during the dry season, so that if they pump out the stream or divert the stream, really, they have the best possible working conditions. So I think, ideally, they spoke about July for doing the work, maybe August. I don't know when the driest part of the summer would be, but that's when they would want to be doing the work. So I'd want to get a quick second opinion, maybe give it a couple of weeks or something, and get some references, have a small budget associated with that to make sure that what's being proposed, what's recommended at least, would be the appropriate solution for this situation.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it is a big project as far as the, we're trying to solve it through a culvert issue. So I don't have it could be it could turn into a very big project. So I have no problem with taking a couple of weeks to get a second opinion or get this reviewed further.
Okay. All right. Everyone else okay with that? Bill?
That sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Jacob?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Christine? Bill O'Neill? Did we lose Bill? You've got your mute button on, Bill?
Yeah, you gotta hit unmute.
Did we lose him?
I can't tell if he's frozen.
Yeah, it looks like he might be frozen.
There he is. Bill, you okay with getting a second opinion?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I unmuted you. Yeah, there's a
Okay.
little icons there to unmute yourself.
Yeah,
all
well,
set.
my picture won't be on, but I can talk to you. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I've seen everything.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that.
Okay. Very good. So we'll develop a budget. You know, I would say, you know, not to spend more than 10,000 on getting a second opinion. You know, hopefully a lot less than that. But why don't we say not to exceed 10,000? You'll authorize the supervisor to procure engineering services for a second opinion on the correction.
Yep.
So moved.
Okay. So that's Bill, yes. Bill, yes. Christine, yes.
Yes,
And
Jacob, yes.
Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. Okay, very good. All right, moving right along. Highway operations, paving, and chip seal. Teresa is with us here. And Teresa, I wonder if we could take the road work first. Is that possible?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay. All right, so I see in your memo, your recommendation is that we move quickly because CHIPS money may get exhausted. And so, is that correct?
We've had a conference call with the state association today, and they're going to send out an email with the results of that conference call. Basically, it said that that the CHIPS EWR and Pave New York is going to stay in place. If the state decided that they were going to run out of money and not fund anything, they would give you an advance notice because it is a reimbursement. And they think that if anything was going to be cut, that it wouldn't be the funding for the CHIPS. Their recommendation is to use it because if you don't use it, it's going to appear as though you don't want it. And that's usually the case, but they're trying to get people to expedite their projects. They're looking at it as a way to drive the economy, jobs, spending money. So that's what the result of the conference call was. Of course, nobody knows anything for certain, but the money's in the budget and the project does fit into that budget line.
Right. Okay, I mean, I don't have a problem with going ahead with the paving job. I just for clarification, it was one of those weird budgets that they passed up in Albany. The budget was contingent upon getting federal support for the impact, what the governor now calls between 10 and 15 billion. And so he's, you know, talking about what's going to happen, you know, what they might have to do, cutting school support, so on and so forth, if they don't get that federal support, which they're having a hard time getting at the moment. So, but I don't have a problem with going forward. That was in the budget for this year. Obviously, this budget for this year and certainly for next year is going to be severely impacted from so many directions, sales tax, so on and so forth. But as far as paving and even, you know, the chip sealing, because those will extend the roadways, it seems like it would be prudent to go ahead with both of those things. Can you just explain to the board the messaging on the trucking and the hourly rate and so on and so forth with that?
So when you do a chip seal project, you need trucks to carry the stone. And based on last year's project, there was 6 trucks for 8 hours, and the cost is $125 per hour. If we get any shared services agreements in place, then we won't be paying for trucks. If we can use our own trucks and we have enough people, we can reduce that cost, but the full estimate of the project for the trucking would be about $6,000. When the contractor gives you an estimate, he gives you an estimate for the stone and for the equipment needed, but that's outside of the trucking and the stone we bring in ourselves. So based on our prices that we went out to bid for in September, the addition to this project is about $11,000 if we have to pay for the full trucking. So it could feasibly be less, but we like to give you the big picture.
So you were saying we might partner with a nearby township if the timing is consistent?
Well, right now we have potential shared services agreements out to 4 towns, and it's pretty slow getting back. So if we don't have those shared services agreements in place, we could ask the village to help us out, and we have a couple of trucks of our own. But I never take that as the final project cost. I would like to give you the full scenario, and then we can back off from there. So it could be less.
Okay. And the same is true, you're thinking perhaps of the paving project, the Aspenwall project, that perhaps, and obviously the fall in oil prices might help a little bit as well. You think we might fall below 185,000?
I'm hoping so. And typically when we get budget numbers from vendors, but you're never going to know the true price until you have the contract or the quick quote in place. And in this situation, using a quick quote would have a quicker turnaround. Worst case scenario, if you didn't like the prices on the quick quote, you could still go out to bid. But they're competitive because you can quick quote from 2 different companies that are listed on state contract. So pretty much all of the purchasing policy and everything else is taken care of. You just fill out a form, you tell them what you need, they return it, they've got a price on it, and then they stick to that. And it's done in place price. So they'll bring everything in, put the asphalt down, we'll just do the flattening.
Okay.
The 284 agreement, I gave you a budget figure of $190,000, and you can see that we're kind of in that range with these 2 quotes. So my expectation, as I said, that the bid should be lower than 185, but the only way you're going to be certain is when you do the paperwork.
Okay. Good. And the plants are open, I assume, by now, right? They're probably opened pretty early this year.
I think they're open. I know that there's calls from vendors because everybody's up in the air about what people are going to be doing, and they'd like to get things lined up, and we would like to get on the schedule. So we haven't get anything from the plant, so I'm not positive, but by May, things will be in place.
Okay. Well, I don't know what others think, but I would say let's go ahead. That makes sense to do the quick quote, and then we'll find out if it's an attractive offer that they're making before we go ahead with this project, and then if not, we'll back off. This is primarily the projects you're looking at. This is the budget that we should look at for those various lines then? Or is there more that you're anticipating later in the year?
No, these are the ones that we had on the 284 agreement.
Right.
And the chip sealing is actually a little bit less than what we had proposed, because when we went back to look at the section of Kelly Road we wanted to do. It needs patch and repair before it can be chip sealed. We may not be able to do that this year.
Okay.
Those were the two major projects that would in effect use up the chips, the EWR and the Pave New York, but you would still have money left in the major roads. And then if we needed to patch for next year, there's money in materials and money in patch. The crack sealing comes out of the patch line, and that has a cap of $20,000 state contract figure. And we found that the crack sealing is very helpful in extending the life of the roads for a small amount of money.
Well, we're gonna need that for sure. Okay.
So, just to clarify, I want to make sure that, so all of the three options that are here are under the CHIPS funding?
No.
Okay, so
No.
just the first two are under the CHIPS funding.
Well,
Just
only
the
the,
Aspen
the Aspenwall, Alder, and Knox is the only project that qualifies for CHIPS funding. You have to have a 10-year life for your project. A chip seal can be a 5-year life. So if we were to use the CHIPS money on a chip seal, we couldn't go back and use CHIPS money on that road for another 10 years. So we try and just use the CHIPS money on projects that are
On the full paving.
yes, on the full.
Okay.
You could also use it for equipment as well, but this is what we've decided that it's the best thing to do because we are a little bit behind on our paving at this point.
And do we have the final CHIPS estimate? CHIPS funding estimate?
They gave me the CHIPS funding estimate. The last date was January 14th of 2020. The total estimate is $184,814. That's what their funding figure is. So even if this bid went up to the 190, we have a major road improvements budget of $90,000, where we'll come in under budget with the chip seal project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there are no other comments, yeah, I would recommend that we approve those requests related to the road works. Jacob, you okay with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Bill Hamill,
I agree.
Bill O'Neill,
Yes, I do.
Christine.
Yes, I think we should go ahead and use the quick quotes.
Yep, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Okay. And can we leave pollinators? Although we should be planting things. I think if I recall, some of the board members had some good thoughts about pollinators.
Well, yeah, why don't we do the pollinators now because Teresa's here, so we can hopefully quick get through it.
Okay.
So
Um,
just
I'm
to
hearing some
clarify,
background noise. Is there somebody having an electronic thing or something?
Yeah, sounds like a saw.
There we go. Oh, so much better. Thank you.
So-
We'll do that.
to clarify the ask, this is just to get your approval to use the desired space that I presented in a previous report. And I have someone who will do the design with me at no cost. That will enable us to draft the budget. And there's no expectation for asking for funding because we're sensitive to the fact that, things are difficult financially right now. But without your approval, then we can't really draw up a plan. And we may be able to get contributions at some point in the future of actual plants and not money. So that's what we're looking for there. And then the town hall landscaping budget, I just wanted to bring that forward because it is the time to start planning those and purchasing those plants as well.
Thoughts?
I'm all behind trying, seeing, I don't see a problem with having the pollinator garden in the area that Teresa has suggested. And I mean, so far there's no request for funds and she's doing a great job of getting people to donate time to help with it. So might as well get the plans together and see what a budget would really be for the project.
Okay.
And it had a really positive response from the CAC last month as well, or this month as well. So I agree. It's a good idea.
Okay. Any other thoughts? If not, let's go ahead and approve that. Bill O'Neill,
Yep, I'm good.
Bill Hamel.
Good.
Okay, Christine,
Yes,
Jacob.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. So all that's good news. Now let's get to the tricky one.
So
Um,
just to clarify with the landscaping budget, that is that approved as well
yes.
for the town hall plantings?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I understood, yeah. The truck. So I know that we have wanted to have this truck on the schedule for 2020. It was on the schedule rather for 2020. But I can tell you, looking at 2021's money and 2022's money, I don't think there's any chance we can consider doing the truck right now. I recognize it may take longer, I guess. I mean, who knows with what's happened to the economy. But I think we need to get better visibility on what things are, what our budgets are going to look like. We've been getting some guidance from Dutchess County on sales tax estimates that we should use, and they're rather devastating estimates. And there are other budget lines that we have to take a look at, and I hope to, start to pencil together some numbers soon so we can see, how just what kind of budget adjustments we need to make this year and especially next year to to all of our funds, frankly. So that's my thoughts about the truck. Anyone else?
Well, if I can just say, I understand your point. I just want to let you know that we have 6 trucks currently. If this truck goes down and doesn't pass inspection, we'll have 5. And if one of those trucks malfunctions or breaks down during the season, we'll have 4.
Okay.
As long as you're okay with the impact on the services that are delivered in the winter and the understanding that it will create delays, there's no issue. I'm not going to push this because I understand about the finances, but just so that you understand what the impacts will be in future winters. And,
okay, so then just to clarify again, because even if we ordered it tomorrow, we wouldn't get the truck for at least a year, maybe a year and a half, right?
So probably closer to 2 years. With
right. So right now we have 6 trucks. I mean, this truck that's coming in would replace one of those trucks.
Yes, we don't have a spare.
Right. So we just have 6 trucks. So, heaven forbid that it doesn't pass inspection or something goes down, then I mean, that situation would happen anyway, even if we ordered the truck tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
But we'd also be putting it off another year as well. We'd have to hope that it lasts, even longer in the future. So we already have the lead times. So I think the question is whether we're, going to be putting it off another year, another 2 years on top of the year or 2 years that it might already take.
Right. And we're talking about almost $300,000, right, for the truck?
250,000 at this point.
Right.
And it goes up at 4% a year. It's already gone up 4% from January to March. So, that's something that's beyond our control unless there's a purchase order put in.
So Robert, do we have any, I mean, nobody really, everything's up in the air, but, do we have any idea when we might get some figures, that we could use for, budget projections? You mentioned.
I hope to have something to you in the next couple of weeks, and with a caveat that they're only going to be guesstimates. There's nobody has visibility, terrific visibility looking forward. I can only just take a wild guess looking back. I have a long history of revenue numbers dating back before the 2008, a couple of recessions, just to get some idea of what, and maybe I can share some of that with you to understand how some of the, new estimates were established. But I will tell you that we've been told not to expect our sales tax growth factor. And just to give you an idea, and that's only one budget line, that's $217,000 is what it was for 2020. It was actually a number for the 2019 sales tax. In addition to the shock to the economy that's happening right now, you're looking at, lower pricing on everything that's getting sales tax perhaps in the future, gasoline and all of that. So I'll do my best to give you a guesstimate. Just please don't hold me to it, because nobody has, terrific experience with this. We've been told that this is going to have a worse financial impact than the 2008 downturn, which was much more of a sort of a slow and steady. I mean, it was a significant drop, obviously, but it actually, the downturn lasted, for a year and a half or two. There's never been anything this sudden to happen to the economy like this. So again, maybe we'll get better visibility as the year progresses or in the beginning of 2021. But for now, we'll just have to do our best and work with what we've got. So that's why I can't support ordering the truck right now. I think it would be not a wise move for us.
Well, can we maybe discuss it at our next meeting and see if if you've gotten any further numbers or any further guesstimates, I guess?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'll try to put some numbers together to you and maybe show you some budget lines that I anticipate will be impacted. And
that would be helpful.
And give you some sense of what that impact may or may not be.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing that I see is that we've always had a capital equipment plan, but we've never had a capital equipment funding plan. It's always been, we ask for a piece of equipment, and then you look at the budget and decide if there's anything there that you want to spare for the equipment. A lot of times towns will have a plan where they build up the funds so that you can plan ahead and say, okay, this year, this truck is coming off this loan. We can keep the taxes level because we are going to go into another loan. But we don't really have that in the highway department budget. It's just, missing.
Yeah.
We do have quite a bit in the fund balance, and the DB lines. In the past, people have authorized use of those funds to buy equipment. And as I said, CHIPS funding can be used to buy equipment if it's still in place, to finance a loan over 5 years.
Okay.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa, very much for your report and for your requests and for answering our question. All right, is there anything else we can bid farewell to Teresa? There you are. I'm wondering, is that it's in somebody's office that we're getting that feedback? I don't know whose it is, but am I the only one who hears it?
Oh, no, I hear it too.
We all hear it.
That was much better. Whoever did whatever they did really helped. Okay. Terrific. Thanks again, Teresa. All right. Chris Scholl, you're with us for item number 4. Could you walk us through, especially for the folks at home who may not be familiar with this planning concept called an open development area? It is sort of like a little known thing that's allowed in our zoning code. And
yeah, can you put up the item on the screen? Is that possible?
I will do my best.
Okay. So it's actually a statutory provision. You have to have actual access to your property through an approved subdivision road, or whether that's a public or private road. This particular lot was developed with access to Reed Road but they want to change that access to a different access. And given where it's situated, it seems like there are two opportunities for them. One is to ask the town board to approve an open development area, which is usually associated with a larger subdivision. Frankly, it's a flexible strategy that is sometimes used for larger projects, but it is possible in this context. And the other possibility is to look for a variance. So what the applicant has done is they've come forward to say, please, grant us an open development area. The process under the town law would involve having the town board first refer the matter to the planning board, because the statute requires that we seek the planning board's advice and consultation in this matter. So we've prepared a resolution that would receive the application, determine that it would be an unlisted action, which it is because it isn't a quote unquote approved subdivision lot, and because of this issue, as to this issue. So it's just unlisted. So the resolution would determine that and refer it to the planning board. If you can page through this to the, let's see, this is a little hard to see.
Yeah.
Can you page through this to,
This is the memo.
forward. Right, go
the other way.
Forward. Yeah, go the other way. And they're also, let's see, I was looking for the map. Let's see, because that would be easier to show you. There we go. There we go. Okay. So you can see the lot and the roads that have access to, the properties that have access to the road. And the lot is that 2-acre lot there, which is access to Reed Road, but it's not developed at this point. And instead of doing that, because of the terrain, they want to go and use this Westview Lane road. So they're going to have to seek private easements to access that, but they need your approval to use that as their access route, basically.
Are these the same family members, owners here?
Not all. Some of them
Not
are.
all. Okay. But they were all, do we know they were all in agreement to have more? This is a common driveway or private lane, private road?
I don't know how it's developed, so we need a little bit more information, I think. So I think what we're going to do is send it to the planning board. The planning board is a little more familiar with some of those issues, because these lots have been developed over many years. So I think we're going to be looking to have some of those questions answered, and then those sort of planning aspects of is it a private road, is it a driveway, how many lots have access off that road, those kinds of issues will be, I think, reviewed, and then we can get some recommendations, and then the board will have to consider the approval. Ultimately, the board would have to consider the approval.
Christine, this is Bill. I have a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there sufficient road frontage on that lot per our town code that, notwithstanding their request, is there sufficient road, road coverage for a driveway directly off the road?
Right, there is, but they don't want to put it there because of the expense of doing that. So they're seeking this alternative.
Thank you.
I mean, it certainly makes sense to put it in front of the planning board for their consideration, and obviously there'll be some expense for reviewing it that we would need the applicant to cover, because the taxpayers can't cover that. I guess I would just encourage them to start with the neighbors. So I think that's a family member of that one. I know these folks, but I'm not sure this one is, and you certainly would want to have, if necessary, if it's a common driveway, if necessary.
Well, Robert, I think the important thing really is to just send it to the planning board for review, because there's a lot of different things coming into play on how many lots you can have on private roads and all that sort of thing. So
that's right. We allow.
I think we should just adopt, look at the resolution and get the process started. But I do agree. I think that we should include the part of the Chris Shaw's recommendation about an escrow account for review costs.
Yeah. Okay, that's not the one I wanted. No, that's not the one I wanted. I'll get there. Okay, here's our
There you go.
resolution. Thanks. Sue, can I quiz you on what the resolution number is, please?
17.
17, thank you.
And
Okay.
you'll see that attached to, the board members received this earlier, but the other document that you had up, I'm not going to have you go back right now, but there is an EAF attached to that so that we have enough of a description of the project to identify the type as unlisted. And so that this resolution accepts the, receives the application, explains what an open development area is in the statutory reference, reviews the EAF, determine that it's unlisted and declares lead agency, and then refers it to the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, I concur. I think we should approve the resolution. I would just want to be careful that we advise them that there's an expense for reviewing. So if their motivation is to come in from the lane, if you will, because of the expense coming in from the road, let's make sure that they understand that there's an expense with the consultant fees and so on and so forth. Okay, further discussion? All right, we have a motion by Bill?
Chris Kane.
Christine?
Christine Kane.
Christine Kane, and a second by Bill
Hamill.
Hamill. All in favor, Bill O'Neill?
Aye.
Jacob?
Aye.
Myself, I as well. Okay. Social media policy, agenda item number 5. As you know, last year, I believe last year, maybe the year before, there was a recommendation to have a town Facebook page. There was some reluctance on doing that, the board at the time, and so that did not take place. I can tell you that many of our communities have them. Some are very happy that they have them. Some are not so happy that they have them. But here is an updated recommendation letter from the communications committee, and I'm not asking you to make a decision tonight, but if you would take a look at it, and in particular look at the policy recommendations that are being put forth, and then let's come back maybe at our next meeting and have a discussion about whether or not this town board would like to go ahead and pursue a Facebook page or some other type of social media page as well, and who would do it, and so on and so forth. So any thoughts? Was that a good way to proceed?
Yes, I think so. I did take a look at it. I have a couple of thoughts, so I want to think about it a little more and read it through again.
Okay.
So I would suggest or agree with discussing it again our next meeting.
Okay. Any other thoughts before we go on to electric vans?
Nope, I'm in agreement too.
Okay, good. So as you know, we're on our third attempt maybe now to get a successful award on the electric vans. We had grant funding from the federal government. The vans are designed to move our seniors and folks with physical and other challenges around the community in a sustainable way. And we received a significant amount of funding from the federal government. There is just as much, in fact, a little bit more matching funding from New York State. They have a program, and there's a deficit that quite a bit of which is going to be made up by the Asienzo Foundation, who has generously agreed to donate $50,000 towards the project. There will be some funds that the town will have to contribute as well. We received 2 bids, and we have Dennis on with us. Oh, I see a picture of Dennis. Dennis, Dennis is the chair of our energy committee. Did you want to speak for a couple of minutes on the 2 bids that we received?
No,
Okay.
I'm not sure that
Okay.
there's really anything to say. I mean, we had initially requested these vans back in December. We needed to make some fundamental changes and include more detail per the DOT requirement. And so we resubmitted them. They're both within, bids are within 20,000 of each other, and the lowest qualified bidder is United Access of New York. And their lump sum payment, I guess if you go down a little bit, including the 2 alternate, or I don't know why we use the term alternates instead of options, but the 2 additional options that we're looking for. It would be, the total would be $334,693, which is for 2 vehicles,
Okay.
9 passenger vans.
Okay. And just as a reminder, I think I mentioned it earlier in the meeting, we're not looking to award it this evening because we want to run the submissions by DOT to make sure all the T's and I's are crossed. And so here are the 2 bid results that we spoke of. And I think that's all we have on that topic. We mentioned that we would need to go into executive session to discuss matters under litigation, tax matters under litigation, Article 7s. And so at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we do that. And before I go ahead and do that, I want to mention to the public and to the others that are on this meeting that what we're going to do now, and I'd ask you to do it as well, is to mute yourselves and also turn off the video. And then when we come back into session, I will turn those things back on. And yeah, that's it for the folks at home. You may be looking at a panda screen or a black screen, and we'll come back to finish up the meeting. Very good. It's 9:05. We have exited executive session. The board has deliberated on 2 tax certiorari matters. We have prepared for us and reviewed documentation by our assessor, Cheryl Kazluga, and proposed settlements on those matters. And our attorney has prepared for us 2 resolutions.
Robert, can we just confirm that Bill is back and that Sue is back on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay. Good.
I'm here. Yeah.
And is Bill here?
Bill O'Neill.
You might have to unmute him, Robert.
I will be happy to do that. Bill, you there?
I can hear you, but you apparently can't hear me.
I can now. I unmuted you.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
But I need to be, it says the meeting host will let you in soon. So you got to let me back in.
You're in. Let me see if we can even get you some video too.
Zoom purgatory.
I don't need to see you though.
Okay. That's not the first time I've heard that. Okay.
All right. As long as we're back.
Very good. So now we have a resolution. Let's do the
Jacob, you're muted.
Yes, I'm muted.
Yeah. Resolution number 18 dated April 22nd. It's a resolution authorizing settlement of Article 7 proceeding with Ryan Carl and Jennifer Quinn Carl, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
I think we had a tie there. We're going to go with Jacob on that one.
I think it was Bill, but
It was Bill.
Oh,
I got
So-
Christine Kane anyway,
yeah,
so
okay.
yeah,
Thanks,
Thank
Sue.
Thank you.
thanks.
All right.
yeah.
All in favor, Bill Hamel,
Aye.
Bill O'Neill,
Aye.
myself, I, and the two who moved the
Aye.
motion. Thank you very much. We also have a resolution number 19, which is to authorizing a settlement of an Article 7 proceeding with Knollwood Commons. And who would like to move that?
So move.
Bill O'Neill, is there a second?
Second.
Christine Kane? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we've got to do a roll call just because it's video conferencing. Jacob?
Aye.
Thank you. Bill Hamel?
Aye.
Christine Kane, yes.
Aye.
Bill O'Neill?
Yes.
Myself, okay, very good. That's resolution number 19. Okay, can we spend a few minutes and sort of quickly get through our committee and board reports? And if we could just take a few seconds to highlight maybe the most important aspects of the reports for the folks at home. And the first report would be a water district report.
Well, we don't have a water district report this month. Oh, well, there was one sent, but it was the one that I briefed on
Last
at the
time.
last meeting.
Okay.
And just so you know that the person who's responsible, who provides the information, has two family members that are very sick with COVID.
Oh,
So-
no.
Attending to that matter now, and I'm hoping that they'll come through and, that my thoughts are with them.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, yeah, okay. Well, there's lots of impact on the town hall family here, so we wish them the best, all of them. Okay. Next is the ZBA monthly report. Bill O'Neill.
Well, the ZBA met on March 11 and the Brown matter, an application for Mr. Brown was adjourned for a public hearing, but that was canceled in April because of the pandemic, and it's to be rescheduled.
Okay. All right, very good. We also have a monthly dog report, Bill Hamel.
Again, I did not get it. I asked for an update. The one that was provided was previously provided, so
Okay, we do have a building and zoning report. Would you like to do that one?
certainly for April. For the prior month, for March, there were 14, or for the reporting period, there were 14 permits, 10 inspections, 9 certificates of occupancy or certificates of compliance, and then there were no complaints, and they generated $6,584 in revenue. And under the circumstances, it's nice to see that we're getting some work done.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So we have
Yes.
a police report. Bill O'Neill, do you?
Well, I don't have the numbers, but
Okay.
does somebody have the numbers, Robert?
Yeah, sure. I can read that for you. This is for Lara, and she's actually reporting back to February.
Robert?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Robert.
Yeah.
Christine got dropped off. Can you let her back in, please?
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened, but
All right. Okay.
Hey,
Definitely.
thanks.
Sure, no worries. Okay, monthly police report. This is February, Bill. I wouldn't be surprised if you had already reported on this one.
I probably did in March, but I don't have the April report.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna skip this report. Jacob, minutes of a March CAC report.
Yes, this meeting was right before everything really heated up with the coronavirus, but we talked about how we had two members of the CAC that attended the Cornell Cooperative Extension EMC roundtable. So that's Lori Urban and Jen Kavanaugh, who represented Red Hook. We were the only town with two presenters, which I think says a lot about the good work that's happening here. We also had a presentation from Teresa about the native plant pollinator garden proposal. And as I said before, everybody seemed to be pretty in favor of it, pretty excited about it. I guess another thing to note about that is the town website also has a native plant resource guide. So if anybody watching would like to look at that, that's available. And then there were a few other things that we talked about, but I think those are the main highlights.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Jacob. I can give a report on Disaster Preparedness Committee. This is the March 10th meeting. And at the time, it was known that the coronavirus was in New York State, but not necessarily up in our region. And the meeting really focused on preparation and the state of the virus in New York. We discussed things that ranged from alternate facilities that may be available should additional beds be needed, to what's happening with students both in the Red Hook School District and Bard College, to what other types of preparations can we make in advance of what was likely to spread up into Dutchess County and our community. And I think it was maybe a day later when the first case actually arrived, March 11th. So that is sort of a summation. And again, want to thank Hai Ping and the many volunteers. You know, we've reached out as a municipality, we've reached out to every resident with a letter, with a list of resources. We've reached out to seniors with phone calls, with cards. We have tons of signage that's been developed for everyone, and lots of follow-up to make sure that everybody's aware of the resources that are available now. Economic Development Committee, Jacob, back to you if I could. I know you have a few meetings here. Maybe if you could just give us a quick summation. Okay.
Yep. So the reports that I have date back to March 11th, which was the last in-person meeting that the EDC has had. Since then, there's been a lot of discussion about the way that the coronavirus has been impacting local businesses and the town as a whole. There's been a lot of discussion about Red Hook Responds and different ways to support local businesses aside from that, and a few different ideas, a lot of encouraging people to continue, trying to utilize the restaurants to the extent possible. Buying gift cards and things like that is another idea that's come up. It's been meeting every week for some time now, the EDC has, and there's a lot of energy from that group and trying to support our community. So, every week we kind of talk about where things are and what's been going on and updates, and talk about with, the way that the federal government and the state and the county have been trying to have different programs, different resources and things like that. That's been the bulk of the discussion. It's been really focused on supporting businesses through this time. So.
Thanks. And I should tell you and the folks at home that our office is working now with the chamber, and what we hope to have finalized in the next couple of days is a complete list of all the local businesses, because we focused on the restaurants and the farm stand because they were part of the critical food network. However, there are tons of our small businesses that have been impacted. Those businesses only exist because they can do in-person actions and activities. And so what we are doing is a comprehensive list, updating it, making sure that it's still current, and then we'll be pushing out information to not only the list itself, but publicizing that list so that all of our residents are aware of the businesses that they can take advantage of if they so choose, especially as we see some loosening of guidance, coming forward in the next couple of months. So,
well, it's also important to remember that we do have businesses in Red Hook that are functioning online.
yes,
And, so don't forget them when you're looking for shopping needs. You don't necessarily have to go to big box stores or Amazon. There may be stores here in Red Hook that can also meet your needs, and they're shipping, but they're also doing like curbside pickup, and some of them are doing contactless delivery on that also. So keep that in mind too.
yeah. And also gift certificates, gift cards. There are many businesses that can operate. We did talk about the movie theater, but one of the things people can do to support a movie theater is to buy one of those booklets or get a gift certificate at your favorite store, and just know that you're going to use that gift card or gift certificate in the future. But right now you'd be helping out that business with their, cash flow. So all of that is really critical, and whatever we can do to help support the businesses, whatever you can do in your circles to get the word out. And I think, it's Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have it done by Friday, if not by Monday. We'll push that out. Okay, Bill O'Neill, report on your intermunicipal task force. I know you haven't been meeting for the last couple of weeks, but...
Well, the task force met for a couple of times in March, but since the pandemic, we have not met, and we will have to wait to see how the pandemic plays out before we meet again to continue our discussion on short-term rentals.
Okay. And Christine Kane, would you like to give a brief report on the recreation report?
Okay. So I do have reports from March and April on recreation. I think one of the most important thing to mention is that our recreation park is technically closed. Even though the construction is not happening at the moment, there are certain, some unsafe conditions and equipment there. We do have signs up saying that it's closed. Unfortunately, there's also information in the reports that, people are coming in anyway. There have been episodes of cutting the construction fencing, the orange plastic construction fencing. So, cutting it and then just going through and walking through and using the park. So they're spending a lot of time trying to repair that and keep that fencing in place. And, potentially or specifically with all the wet weather we've been having, for instance, there's been a lot of folks using the track and leaving deep footprints in it because it's so wet. That's going to require a lot of repair and maintenance to get that back into shape. But it's really important that people understand. I know people want to get out and recreate when they can, but we should all remember that the park is closed and there are some hazards there that people should not be winding their way amongst in there. And so, in terms of the most recent, a lot of the work in March was still focusing on whether certain things were going to happen, whether we were going to be able to have, school sports using the property, whether there was going to be summer programs. And so, it's pretty clear that none of those things are going to happen now. There have not been final decisions, of course, that school will not reopen. But Dutchess County Health Department is now not issuing any permits for summer camps right now. And it's we qualified to become a day camp last year. So it's quite a lot of preparation and paperwork and the way that signups would work. So right now, our rec director is not optimistic that there's going to be any summer programs. So we do want to get the word out to people who might be counting on that to help with summer childcare needs, that it just may not be happening this year. We don't know that yet for sure, but it's not looking good. We only have, we've not cut the park staff, but we only have a couple people working and, alternating, and some people are working only on the weekends. But our parks crew continues to just do an amazing amount of work on our parks, as well as the Red Church Cemetery. And it's just amazing what they're getting accomplished. And I think we really just should congratulate them all.
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed in the report it talks about our much beloved fishing contest that would have taken place just the other day.
Yeah.
And again, to go back to those, the governor's executive orders that we're not allowed to congregate for any reason. So we were not able to do, that contest. And so we look forward to, maybe we can reschedule at a different time. I know spring season is the time when everybody wants to do fishing. But we may have to, over the course of the next year or two, really rethink the timeframes and when we do these types of events that bring a bunch of us together. I do want to say, Christine, I don't know if you had the chance, but I always keep it in the background here in the office. I had the governor's press conference this morning on, and he said he was not closing the door on the possibility that schools would reopen. I don't know if that's a change in his sense of how things are progressing, or just keeping the options open. So it will be interesting to see in the next couple of weeks if that changes at all, or if people are just too nervous to put their kids in a classroom again. All right, senior services. I think you know what's happening with the senior services. I spoke about that. And I want to thank Susan Davidson of Friends of Seniors, who helped us figure out how to transport some seniors as well. And we regrettably want to mention that her husband passed away just a couple of weeks ago. She's been a very big help to Friends of Seniors. We talked about a lot of the volunteer group leaders and what they're doing for outreach, how they can help folks like at the Red Hook Commons, where they have some challenges there on trying to isolate and safely move around. Apartment buildings are unusual in the town of Red Hook, and having this type of pandemic makes it a bit of a challenge for some. So we've been helping with volunteers over there as well. So also want to mention that we've had tons of volunteers that help, that have a little more expertise than we do. And Donna Fisher, who heads up the home health care at Health Quest, who is also a Red Hook resident, has been kind enough to volunteer in the efforts in our community. In fact, she was one of the ones who early on took the masks over to Hannaford and provided them with some CDC information on the proper way to utilize the mask. So, all right, that's what I have for senior services, and I think that's it. Does anyone else have anything they would like to cover this evening? Okay. If not, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, May 12th. It's quite possible, I'll let you know now, that we will have a special meeting called to conduct some business. The electric van bids, we would like to go ahead and award that. So I don't think we'd like to wait till May 12th to do that, and any other timely business that comes up. So look for some announcement on a special meeting. Okay, with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we close the meeting of April 22nd. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, Jacob?
Aye.
Bill Hamill?
Aye.
Bill O'Neill?
Aye.
Very good. I want to thank you all, and I want to send a message to all of our residents. We want to thank you for all of your cooperation. This has been a very difficult time, very stressful time for all of us, those of us in local government that are, having sleepless nights trying to figure out, the ways that we can best assist you as we get through this. We will get through this together because we have a strong community. And so please feel free to reach out to any of us to help. With that being said, I wish you all good night.
Good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night,
very
everybody.
much.
Good night.
Good night.